Jack Thunder and the Fragments of Anima. Book 4. Earth. Chapter 4. Solstice Vacation. The winter sun, hanging low in the sky and shrouded in misty red, teased Jack Thunder, Buckthorn, and Shadowpaws awake. They shivered as they wrestled their way out of the leaves that held them. The sharp winter air was such a shock to wake up to after spending the night wrapped in warm blankets. Fortunate, then, that Yggdrasil's trunk stayed warm all year round. Buckthorn sighed in relief. At least in here it's not so bad. She wasn't sure how long she could take this. It never got this cold back in the Great Barrier Kingdom, not even during the holidays. Even more fortunate, after the team had gotten up and set off for the day, it had warmed up a bit. It still wasn't as warm as the Turquoise Archipelago, but at least it was more tolerable than it was that morning. Still, a thin frost coated the ground, crunching beneath her feet. I wonder how they can stand it, she thought. Most of the grove's residents were dryads, with a few wood sprites and talking animals scattered here and there. Dryads, the half-tree fairies who lived in the emerald woodland, usually hibernated through the winter, or so Buckthorn heard. These dryads were as active as everyone else, though their usually thick leafy hair was now wispy and snowy white to match the season. The horn-like branches growing from their heads were completely bare. All of a sudden, Buckthorn heard a commotion. A dryad much smaller than the others came bursting in through the crowds. "Has anyone seen Sour Apple?" Through the commotion, Buckthorn thought she recognized that dryad. Wasn't he at the party back in the Turquoise Archipelago? She remembered that there were 2 dryads at the party the day she and Jack Thunder liberated the islands from the Wendigos. And the name Sour Apple... Suddenly it hit her. Sweet Apple. He was at the party with Sour Apple. They had a competition between them to see how many apples each of them could sell. She almost didn't recognize him without the bright red apples hanging from his head branches. It was only by his eyes that she recognized him. They were a soft pastel red, much like the apples he bore on his branches during the cherry sun. Buckthorn pushed her way through the crowds and approached him. "Hey, what's up? What happened to Sour Apple?" Sweet Apple turned his glance to the reef siren. "Buckthorn? What are you doing out here? Aren't you supposed to be in the Great Barrier Kingdom?" So he recognized her. "Haven't you heard? It was me and Jack who beat the Wendigos and brought peace to the Turquoise Islands." He jumped back. "That was you?" Buckthorn sighed and rolled her eyes. Was this dryad dense? She knew trees were slow, but Sweet Apple took it to a whole new level. "I'm sorry, I'm just kinda all over the place right now. Me and Sour Apple had come down here to see if we could help with the solstice preparations, but then he suddenly went missing. It's not like him to just disappear like this." Sour Apple. He was the one selling apples with you, right? He nodded. "Yeah, he's a bit taller and thinner than me and has green eyes. Have you seen him?" She shook her head. "I'll keep an eye out for him." He thanked her as she left to regroup with the rest of the team. She relayed to them what she'd heard. "Sour Apple's missing? Wasn't he one of the dryads at the party?" Jack Thunder asked. Buckthorn had told him about it, but he hadn't seen them since he'd been in the hospital after the battle on the Central Island. "I saw him there too," San confirmed for her. "I don't really know them well, but it does seem suspicious that the tall one would suddenly vanish. That seems to be more in Sweet Apple's league," he chuckled to himself. "I don't know," Buckthorn replied. She hoped that Sour Apple had just gotten separated from Sweet Apple while they were in the grove, but with all that happened lately, she feared something darker. Jack Thunder's thoughts were interrupted by someone calling out to the crowd. "Hey everyone, the Elder Goat's in town!" All of a sudden, he was swept up in a tide of earth fairies as they made their way towards a far corner of the grove. Jack Thunder had met the Elder Goat many times as he was growing up. It was a beloved tradition in altars for fairies and magical beasts of all stripes to give their wishes to the Elder Goat. On solstice night, he would take all their wishes up to the pool of solstice wishes in the far north, where they would be granted. Of course, it wasn't wise to grant every single wish. The Elder Goat had a system for determining which wishes would be granted, and those whose wishes were rejected would receive little gifts and candy instead. Jack Thunder cringed. He wondered if the Elder Goat still remembered the incident from when he was 5. The Storm Gremlin Widget had somehow managed to stow himself away in the Elder Goat's sack of wishes. Neither Frosty nor the Elder Goat himself ever figured out how he'd managed to slip in unnoticed. It was only when he dumped the entire sack of wishes into the pool, granting every single one, that the Elder Goat found him out. It took him and his fellow Yule Goats quite a while to clean that mess up. And you'll never believe this. One year, Jackie hid in the Elder Goat's sack and made it all the way to Yule City without anyone knowing. It was only when he spilled all the wishes into the pool that we found out where he was. Frosty was laughing about the incident with San. Jack Thunder cringed even harder. She sure remembers. This did not lift his spirits at all. Eventually they made their way up to the stump the Elder Goat sat on. He was quite the imposing figure, taking the form of a massive black goat man with enormous dragon wings and cloaked in a bright purple winter coat. If Jack Thunder didn't know better, he could have mistaken him for some sort of demon. Shadowpaws was first. He stared intently into the crystal adorning the Elder Goat's staff. What did he wish for? He whispered it into the crystal. I wish that I weren't such a scaredy cat. He finally made his wish. The crystal briefly flashed white before fading back to its cyan blue. A small glass orb floated in the air before making its way into the Elder Goat's sack. Shadowpaw's wish was received. Buckthorn was next. She wished for a warm coat for the winter time, to the surprise of absolutely no one. Jack Thunder wondered where he could get her a coat in the grove, hopefully before they ran into Nemesis again. Then, Razor went up to the Elder Goat. No one knew what he wished for, since he couldn't speak. Even so, the crystal in the Elder Goat's staff received the wish all the same. Now it was his turn. He took a deep breath and spoke. I wish that we could find out where Terra is before Nemesis gets to it. At the mention of the Earth Fragment, the Elder Goat's eyes flashed with recognition. The Earth Fragment? He looked up and spotted San beside the 2 fairies whose wishes he had just received. You're... He turned his gaze back down to the Storm Gremlin. Wait a minute. Aren't you that little widget who slipped into my sack that one time? What are you doing with San? Jack Thunder sighed. Yes, that was me. Anyways, that's not important right now. I sense Terra is somewhere in this grove, and we need to get it before... Frosty cut him off. Jackie, not so loud! Don't freak out everyone here! The Elder Goat cocked his head. Wait, what's going on here? Frosty leaned in, whispering into his ear. The Heart of Darkness is returning, and we need the Anima fragments to banish it. We've found 3 so far, but it's not enough. There's this Wendigo calling itself Nemesis that's been trying to get to them before we can. What Jackie was saying is that we need to find Terra before Nemesis finds it. I didn't want him causing a panic, so I cut him off. The Elder Goat nodded slowly, his face a bit paler than before. I understand. I'll see what I can do. Jack Thunder, Buckthorn, and Shadowpaws all thanked the Elder Goat before they made their way back to town. The Elder Goat couldn't help but watch them intently as they left. He glanced back into his bag, looking at Jack Thunder's wish. He would grant it no matter what. Hi there, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you would like more from our friend Jack Thunder, you can check out my new book series, Jack Thunder and the Fragments of Anima, on Amazon using the link in the description. Or you can head on over to my Teespring and grab a few things from my shop. And please like, comment, share, and subscribe for more content every week. Thank you for watching.